Hi, I'm France-Luce Benson, and my play Talking Piece is premiering on Thursday, October 1st in the Together LA Virtual Stage Festival. And to learn more about my play and my work, watch this video. I first fell in love with theater when I was about 12 years old. I was at a school for the performing arts in Miami, Florida, which is where I grew up, and I was in a music program. And they started a theater program while I was there, and I had never been in a play. Well, actually, I'd been in one play in second grade, but I didn't know much about theater and what acting training would look like. But some friends of mine were auditioning and suggested I audition, and I never forgot my audition. I just jumped in. They had us do improv games and theater games, and, we were supposed to be like puppies on the floor. And I never thought twice about it. And I just fell in love with just being in an imaginary world. And I loved playing characters. And I especially loved how it made other people feel. I remember specifically that audition. I remember the auditioner laughing, and I just got this charge. And I think that stuck with me, not just about making other people laugh, but having the power to have an impact on somebody. Audience members remembering a play, remembering the experience of watching the play and the emotions that they felt, and hopefully inspiring them to create change, either in their lives or in the communities that they live in. So that's what I love about theater. When did I fall in love with writing? Gosh, that's hard to, I think it's hard to identify a moment. I feel like it's like falling in love with a person. It kind of happens over time. I started playing around with playwriting in high school. I was, again, at a performing arts school as an actor, and then I took a playwriting class, and it was the same thing. I would bring in pages, I'd bring in scenes, and I loved the reaction that I got, and that's kind of what drove me in the beginning. When I felt I had to be a writer was in undergrad. I was doing a bachelor's in theater as an actor, and our senior project to graduate, we had to write a one-person show. And I started writing a show about Michel Duvalier, who was the wife of Baby Doc in Haiti, the dictator. And as I was conducting my research, I just became so fascinated with the history of that dictatorship, the history of Haitian politics, the dance, the music. There were things that I, as Haitian-American, there were things that I had not known myself. And I asked if I could just write a full-length play with other characters instead of a one-person show. And they allowed me to do that. And that's really when I felt like I had to write, because growing up in Miami at the time that I did, there was a lot of xenophobia around the Haitian community. And, we were hardly in the media, but when we were in the media, it was, there were stereotypes, there were negative, everything was negative. And so writing that play, I just felt I had this calling to tell our stories and to represent not just Haitian people, but just Black people from the Afro diaspora in a positive light, to share our history, and to create roles, because, when I first started writing, I was still acting, and I was writing roles for myself that were challenging, and writing roles for my peers, my Black peers who were actors, who were not getting the opportunity to really be challenged. And so that became a passion for me as well. And so, yeah, that's really what started to drive me, is really honoring my culture and creating work for Black actors. I think there's so many reasons why it's important to hear more voices from the Black community, from the Afro diaspora. But the one that's coming to mind right now, you know, one of the other things that I love about theater is the power that it has to create empathy and compassion. Through characters, we learn about people who maybe are not part of our lives. And it's important for us as Black Americans, as people from the Afro diaspora, to really be seen and to be heard, because, you know, as we see, racial inequality in this country is still as prevalent as it was, you know, in 1965. And so much of racism is about ignorance and fear. And I think the more that we are seen and heard, hopefully the more empathy and compassion we can all have for each other. And then also, you know, Black Americans built this country. We are a part of this country's history, an important part of this country's history, and our stories deserve to be told. My work is mostly character driven. And so usually the character is the first thing that kind of invades my headspace, and I'll hear a voice, or I'll have a vision of a character in a moment, and then there's often just a long process of figuring out, okay, who is this person? What is the story? And a lot of times it's about what I'm going through, or what my community is going through. But I also am very interested in history, in you know, correcting revisionist history, and so I'm often inspired when I hear about stories that most people don't know, or even I didn't know. Like I often feel compelled to tell those stories. So I've written quite a few plays that are based on historical events or historical people. And what I like to do is tell those stories. I like to make those historical events the backdrop. I'm really curious about people who are living during a historical moment, and how that impacted their relationships, how that impacted their relationships with themselves. So, you know, there's a lot of reflecting, reading history books, reading sometimes fiction that takes place in those times. And then I like to jump in. Like once I start a draft, I like to really just jump in, and I don't usually outline and figure out the plot before I write that first draft. I kind of just like to see where the characters take me, and then the subsequent drafts, I kind of figure out the best way to tell that story. I've heard of them because, you know, they've been around for so long and have done such great work. I know that I've heard the name, the Fountain Theater, but I was directly introduced to them because Stephen Sachs and I actually share an agent. So when I moved to Los Angeles, our agent kind of got us together. You know, she thought we would hit it off, and I was really just so taken by Stephen's vision and the work that the Fountain does. He told me in that first meeting about their program, Walking the Beat, which pairs high school students with police officers. And I just thought, wow, any company that is doing something like that, I would love to be a part of. And I saw a few of their productions. You know, I was hoping that perhaps we could collaborate at some point. And then I was doing a residency last year in Brazil, and I got an email from Stephen out of the blue asking if I might be interested in joining the company as their community engagement coordinator. And it was really a surprise. And, you know, we talked about it, and one thing led to another. And I just, again, because of the quality of their work and their artistic mission, you know, their commitment to social justice issues, I really wanted to be a part of the company and just do what I could. I heard about the Together LA Virtual Stage Festival through Simon Levy, who is one of the producers at the Fountain Theater. And he has been part of this collective of artistic directors in Los Angeles who've been meeting every week during the pandemic. From the time theaters were shut down, they've been meeting every week, and they together came up with this concept. And, you know, the way that festival is working is each theater is sort of producing, and I think maybe commissioned playwrights, and they're kind of presenting their own play. And since I am a playwright in residence at the Fountain, Simon came to me and, you know, told me about it and asked me if I would be interested in writing the play that the Fountain represents. And I thought it was a great idea. And I, you know, again, I was like thrilled and honored to be a part of it. And it's really amazing during this time when theaters are shut down and we don't know what the future is, to be given the opportunity to continue to create is really a blessing. So, you know, of course I said yes. So like everybody else, I'm zoomed out. Every day I'm zooming this and zooming that. And so when Simon first told me about this festival, that was one of the first things I thought, oh, I should write a play about people in a Zoom meeting, because it's become kind of absurd, you know, that we're all kind of in this, in the screens together all day. And I've done a lot of different kinds of Zoom meetings. I mean, I've done Zoom interviews, Zoom staff meetings, but I've also taught workshops over Zoom. You know, I've had therapy sessions over, you know, just you name it. And I did the idea for the play. I was actually part of a sort of kind of a healing circle / support group. And something like this did occur, where somebody who wasn't really part of the group came into the group, and the reaction I thought was, I just thought it was funny. And I was interested in exploring this conversation that we're having in the moment about identity, and not just in terms of, you know, black and white racial politics, but even amongst Black Americans. There are so many nuances in terms of our identity and how we identify and how we perceive each other. You know, I'm a first generationer, and it's always been a complicated conversation for me, because I grew up in America. I'm an American citizen. I feel very American, but I also feel very Haitian, and I'm very connected to that part of me. And it's complicated sometimes. You know, and when Biden announced Kamala as his running mate, there was a whole, on social media, there were a lot of conversations about, you know, is she Black, or she says she's this, she's that, what is she? And so I really wanted to explore that conversation, and I wanted to do it in a comic way. And again, I feel like so much of what we're doing on Zoom, if we weren't in this situation and just said, hey, let's do you know, let's do an aerobics class on Zoom, it would just sound absurd, but it's become the norm. And so I just kind of wanted to look at that and poke fun of that, of how difficult it is for us to adapt. I don't want to give away too much, but I'll just say, you know, it's about a group of women who come together on Zoom to kind of support each other and lift each other up during this time. And an outsider finds her way into the Zoom meeting, and it forces the women to sort of investigate what it means to be a person of color and what the term BIPOC really means, um, and just look at their own identities and their feelings about each other around identity. I have an amazing cast. Many of them I've worked with before. Lisa Strum is an actor based in New York. I was based in New York for many years. I moved to LA 2 years ago. So Lisa, I've worked with her as an actor, and she's also directed my work. I knew as I was writing it, I just knew she'd be perfect for this. She's hilarious and one of the smartest people I know. And we've actually had conversations around this, so I knew that she'd be great in it. Celestine Allen is also a New York-based actress, and Paula Boit is a New York-based Haitian-American actress. I've worked with them all before and just knew they would be amazing. And Janelle Lawrence is an actor that my director, Dr. Daphne Sikere, had worked with and suggested her. And Miriam Ani, I actually met just before COVID changed our world. I was an adjudicator at the Kennedy Center American Theater Conference in Colorado. And they also did a reading of one of my plays that Miriam directed, and we got to know each other. And I just had a feeling she would bring something really special and funny to the role, which she did. I'm just amazed at what they were able to create in a short amount of time over Zoom. It really is an amazing cast. What I want the audience to get out of, well, first of all, I want them to laugh. I'll be totally transparent. It's a comedy. I want to bring a little levity to this moment that we're in, which is so stressful and pretty depressing. And I would also like the audience to, you know, underneath the laughter to really, I'd love for it to inspire conversations in their own communities about what BIPOC means, what it means to be a person of color, who gets to claim that. I would love audience members to think about what it means to take up space in an environment that was maybe not intended for you. You know, where is it okay for us to take up space, and what ways do we take up space, and what does that do to the people in that space? How does it change the dynamic? And it's it's all women. I would love for it to feel like a kind of an uplifting play for women, particularly Black women. I would love for Black women to watch it and feel affirmed and somehow empowered, and feel like they've been represented in a positive, nuanced way with laughter. That's number one. I want people to laugh. I'm really excited about the Together LA virtual stage festival because there are so many theaters involved. So I'm really excited about just seeing all the other work. My night, where my play runs Thursday, October 1st, and the other playwrights include Nambi Kelly, who wrote Native Son, and it's just like on fire, and Bernardo Cubria, who's a really well-renowned. So I feel really honored to be on the same bill as these other playwrights, and I'm really excited to see what they've come up with and what all the other theaters. I'm really curious and excited to see what they've come up with, and I know that the way that the festival was produced, we were asked to write plays that would translate well virtually, and there is some production value. The plays have been edited, so I'm really curious to see what the other theaters came up with and what it's going to look like visually. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. The SoCal Los Angeles audience, I really strongly encourage us to support this festival, to support all of the plays in the festival, to support all these theaters. Los Angeles does have a very vibrant theater community, and there are theaters who produce really incredible, extraordinary work. There are a lot of playwrights here in LA now, I think probably more than ever. And this is a really difficult time for theaters everywhere, not just in LA. And so I think it's really important for us to support these theaters as much as we can. And this festival also, proceeds are going to organizations that are working to end police brutality. If they go on the website to reserve tickets, they'll see that information, that proceeds of this festival are going towards the fight against police brutality. The Fountain Theater has been around for this is actually their 30th year, and they were planning a very big gala later this year that is now postponed. But yeah, I mean, 30 years anywhere, they're an important part of LA's cultural landscape. The playwrights that have been produced there, include Otho Fugard, Terrell McCraney. They've produced so many playwrights who are an important part of the theatrical tapestry in America and in the world. And the Fountain Theater also is really committed to building and strengthening community in LA and amplifying voices that are often not given the opportunity to be given a platform. And the work that we do is so vital to LA life. And so it's important to continue to support theaters like the Fountain and other alternative theaters in Los Angeles, because theater is important in any culture. I mean, you study theater in any culture, and it's a vehicle towards change. It's a vehicle towards social and political activism. Through arts education, young lives are impacted significantly, and Fountain Theater, as well as I think a lot of these theaters do have arts education programs that are really important to LA's communities. So there are so many reasons to support us and to support other theaters. So I hope everyone will support Together LA, the virtual Sage Festival, and please tune in on Thursday, October 1st to see my play, Talking Peace, directed by Dr. Daphne Sikre. That evening, there are also plays by Nambi Kelly and Bernardo Cubria, and I really hope that you will tune in.